Picture the air settling as the day cools. Over the flat roofs of Padua in January 1610. The cold is a sharp thing that bites through woolen, cloaks and settles deep into the bones of the stone city. You walk up the narrow, winding stairs where the wood groans softly under your weight, a sound lost in the vast silence of the night. The air grows cooler with every step, carrying the faint scent of damp plaster and the distant rhythmic lapping of water against the canal walls far below. A single candle flame flickers in the drafty corridor, casting long, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink against the rough-hewn walls. You reach the top and push open the heavy door to the terrace, where the wind whispers through the open space. The sky above is a deep, velvet black, scattered with stars that seem brighter here than anywhere else in the world. The temperature drops sharply as you step out into the open, the chill wrapping around you like a heavy, invisible cloak. You can hear the faint rustle of dry leaves caught in the corners of the roof and the occasional creak of the wooden beams settling in the frost. A brass telescope stands on a sturdy tripod, its surface gleaming with a dull, golden warmth from the candlelight nearby. The metal feels cool and smooth to the touch, polished by many hands and countless nights of careful observation. You lean in close to the lens and see the world beyond the glass, a tiny, inverted universe waiting to be revealed. The smell of beeswax and old parchment drifts up from the study below, mixing with the crisp, clean scent of winter air inside the room. The light from a single flame illuminates a desk, covered in scattered sheets of paper and ink pots. A quill pen rests in an inkwell, its tip dry and still, after hours of writing and calculating. The pages are filled with neat, precise diagrams of the moon and stars, drawn with a steady hand and a patient mind. Dust motes dance slowly in the shaft of light that filters through the tall window, moving in a silent, hypnotic rhythm. A leather-bound journal lies open on the desk, its pages yellowed with age and filled with the quiet thoughts of a man who watches the sky. The room feels suspended in time, a sanctuary where the noise of the city fades away and only the stars remain. You can hear the soft crackle of a low fire in the hearth, a gentle sound that promises warmth against the winter chill. The stone walls hold the heat of the day, releasing it slowly into the cool air of the night. Outside, the moon casts a pale, silvery glow over the courtyard, turning the cobblestones into a path of light. The silence is deep and unbroken, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant bark of a dog. A wooden astrolabe sits on a shelf, its intricate rings and markings a testament to the precision of human craft. The brass gleams softly in the dim light, reflecting the flickering flame and the shadows of the room. You run your fingers over the smooth wood of the desk, feeling the grain and the weight of the history it holds. The air is still, heavy with the promise of discovery and the quiet determination of a mind at work. The telescope stands ready, a silent sentinel pointing toward the heavens, waiting for the next observation to begin. The night is young and the stars are bright, offering a view that has not been seen in this way before. You stand in the doorway, watching the flame dance and listening to the quiet rhythm of the house settling into sleep. The world outside is dark and cold, but here in this small room, there is a gentle warmth and a sense of purpose. The candlelight flickers once more, casting a final, soft glow over the books and instruments before the night deepens. The silence returns, absolute and complete, wrapping the room in a blanket of peace and quiet contemplation. The stars above wait patiently, their light traveling through the darkness to reach the eyes of those who look up with wonder. The night settles deeply, and the breath of the city slows to a gentle, rhythmic hush. Han-I-N-T-R-O-C-T-A, verbatim, if this hour serves you. The bell brings the next, and whisper a single name below. Anyone whose night we should walk into. The stone beneath the bare feet feels cool and damp from the night air, drifting through the narrow streets of Padua. A single lantern sways in the distance, casting long, trembling shadows against the rough plaster of the ancient walls. The sound of water laps gently against the canal banks, a rhythmic pulse that marks the slow passage of time in this quiet city. Footsteps echo softly on the cobblestones, the only movement in a world that seems to hold its breath under the vast, starry canopy. The air carries the scent of damp moss and wood smoke, a familiar perfume that clings to the clothes and hair of anyone walking these lanes. Distant bells toll from a church tower, their low, resonant notes rolling over the rooftops and fading into the silence of the night. The sky above is a deep, velvety black, scattered with stars that shine with a clarity unknown in the crowded, smoke-filled cities of the south. You stand at the base of a stone staircase, looking up toward the small terrace where the night watch keeps a silent vigil. The wind whispers through the cracks in the masonry, carrying the faint murmur of voices from a tavern far below. A shutter creaks in the breeze, a soft, rhythmic sound that blends with the distant hoot of an owl perched on a nearby gable. The city sleeps, but the stars remain awake, watching over the sleeping houses with an ancient, unblinking gaze. You climb the stairs slowly, each step echoing softly against the stone, the sound swallowed by the thick walls that surround the small apartment. The door opens with a low groan, revealing a room bathed in the soft, golden glow of a single candle flame. The light dances across the heavy oak desk, illuminating the dust motes that float lazily in the still air. A stack of parchment lies open, filled with careful diagrams and numbers written in dark ink. the lines precise and deliberate. The smell of beeswax and old paper fills the room, a comforting scent that speaks of long hours of study and quiet contemplation. A brass telescope rests on a wooden stand near the window, its polished surface catching the candlelight and throwing small, dancing reflections onto the plaster walls. The instrument is cool to the touch, the metal smooth and heavy, a testament to the skill of the craftsman who forged it. You run your fingers along the rim of the lens, feeling the fine texture of the glass beneath your fingertips. The window is open, letting in the cool night air that mixes with the warmth of the fire in the hearth. The flames crackle softly, sending sparks up the chimney and casting flickering shadows that play across the room. A leather-bound journal lies on the desk, its pages filled with notes and calculations that trace the movements of the heavens. The ink is still wet in places, the quill pen resting in the inkwell, its tip poised as if ready to write again at any moment. Outside, the world is dark and silent, but inside, the room is alive with the quiet energy of discovery. The brass armillary sphere on the shelf catches the light, its rings casting geometric shadows that shift slowly as the candle flame flickers. You walk to the window and look out at the city, seeing the dark shapes of the buildings and the faint glow of distant lanterns. The lagoon is a sheet of black glass, reflecting the stars above with a perfect mirror-like clarity. A gondola glides silently through the water, its oars making only the softest splash as it moves through the night. The sound of a bell tolls in the distance, marking the hour with a low, mournful note that fades into the silence. The wind picks up slightly, rustling the pages of the open journal on the desk, turning them one by one with a soft whisper. You feel the weight, the night pressing against the window, a heavy, tangible presence that seems to hold the world in a state of suspended animation. The room feels like a sanctuary, a place where the chaos of the outside world cannot reach, where the mind can wander freely among the stars. The candle flame burns steadily, a small, golden beacon in the vast darkness of the night. You sit in the wooden chair, feeling the rough texture of the wood beneath your hands, the chair creaking softly as you shift your weight. The fire in the hearth burns low, the embers glowing with a soft, red heat that warms the air around the desk. The silence is deep and unbroken, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards settling in the cool night. A figure moves in the shadows near the window, a man in a dark robe who stands silently, watching the stars through the brass telescope. He does not speak, does not turn, but remains a still, dark presence in the corner of the room, a silent guardian of the night. The candlelight casts his shadow against the wall, a tall, slender shape that stretches and contracts with the flickering of the flame. He lifts the telescope slightly, adjusting the lens with a careful, deliberate motion, his hands moving with the precision of a craftsman. The stars outside seem to brighten in response to his gaze, as if acknowledging the presence of the observer within the small, quiet room. The wind dies down, leaving the air still and heavy, the silence so profound that the sound of your own breathing seems loud in the quiet. The fire crackles again, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney, and the shadows on the wall dance wildly. For a moment before settling back into stillness, the room feels suspended in time, a pocket of calm in a world that is rapidly changing, a place where the boundaries between art and science dissolve into a unified pursuit of understanding. The observer feels the presence of the past in every object, a reminder of the long tradition of inquiry that preceded them. The stillness of the room invites a deep and meditative state of mind, perfect for the careful work of analysis. The candle flame dances without flickering, a steady beacon in the darkness of the night. The world outside continues its slow rotation, indifferent to the quiet efforts taking place within the small study. The peace of the room is absolute, a rare gift in a life dedicated to the relentless pursuit of truth. The shadows lengthen as the candle burns lower, the light growing dimmer but still steady, casting a soft, golden glow over the desk and the open journal. The figure in the corner remains motionless, a silent sentinel watching the stars, while the fire in the hearth burns down to a bed of glowing embers. The night deepens, the stars shining brighter in the black sky, and the silence of the room wraps around you like a warm, heavy blanket. You feel the weight of the night settling into your bones, a gentle, soothing pressure that slows your thoughts and quiets your heart. The candle flame flickers one last time, then steadies, holding its ground against the encroaching darkness. The world outside is still, the city asleep, and the stars watch on with their ancient, unblinking gaze. The room is a sanctuary of silence and light, a place where the mind can rest and the soul can find peace. The shadows on the wall are still, the fire is low, and the night is deep and full of quiet wonder. The silence settles over the room like a soft, heavy curtain wrapping the world in a gentle, soothing embrace. The candle flame burns low, casting a soft, golden glow that fades slowly into the darkness. The stars outside continue their slow, silent dance, watching over the sleeping city with an ancient, unblinking gaze. The room is still, the air heavy with the scent of beeswax and old paper, and the night is deep and full of quiet peace. The shadows on the wall are still, the fire is low, and the silence of the room wraps around you like a warm, heavy blanket. The world outside is still, the city asleep, and the stars watch on with their ancient, unblinking gaze. The room is a sanctuary of silence and light, a place where the mind can rest and the soul can find peace. The candle flame burns low, casting a soft, golden glow that fades slowly into the darkness. The stars outside continue their slow, silent dance, watching over the sleeping city with an ancient, unblinking gaze. The room is still, the air heavy with the scent of beeswax and old paper, and the night is deep and full of quiet peace. The shadows on the wall are still, the fire is low, and the silence of the room wraps around you like a warm, heavy blanket. The stone beneath your feet is cool and damp, holding the memory of a rain that fell before dawn. You stand on the terrace where the air smells of wet slate and the distant, sharp tang of the Brenta River. It is January in Padua, and the world below moves with a slow, rhythmic certainty that has persisted for centuries. Smoke rises from chimneys in the valley, curling into the gray sky like thin, gray ribbons that drift toward the distant hills. The city wakes not with a shout, but with the creak of wooden shutters and the soft thud of a baker opening his heavy door. You can hear the clatter of a horse's hooves on the cobblestones, a sound that echoes off the high walls of the alleyways. This is the space where the scholar steps out, though he remains a figure in the background, a silhouette against the pale light of a winter morning. He moves quietly, his boots making little sound on the damp stone, carrying the weight of a telescope wrapped in oilcloth. The brass of the instrument catches the first faint glimmer of sun, a warm golden spot in the cool gray air. You watch as he pauses at the railing, looking down at the courtyard where servants sweep the damp leaves into neat piles. The smell of baking bread drifts up from the street, mixing with the scent of wet wool and horse sweat. It is a simple, earthy perfume that anchors the mind to the ground, to the immediate and the real. The wind carries the sound of a blacksmith's hammer, a steady, rhythmic beat that marks the passage of the morning hours. You feel the chill of the air against your skin, a sharpness that clears the thoughts and sharpens the senses. The terrace is a place of transition between the quiet of the study and the noise of the world below. Books lie stacked on a small wooden table, their leather covers worn smooth by many hands. A single candle flickers in a brass holder, its flame dancing in the breeze, but never extinguishing. The light it casts is soft and yellow, illuminating the dust motes that float in the air like tiny, suspended stars. You see the texture of the parchment, the rough grain of the paper where ink has soaked deep into the fibers. The telescope rests on its stand, a long, slender tube of brass and wood that points toward the waking sky. It is a tool of precision, built with care and patience, its lenses polished until they are clear as water. You can imagine the view through it, the sharp, bright points of light that the naked eye cannot see. But for now, the day belongs to the earth. to the people who walk the streets and tend the gardens. A woman in a gray cloak walks past the terrace, her head bowed against the wind. She carries a basket of green vegetables, the leaves still wet with dew. Her footsteps are quick and purposeful, a rhythm that matches the beat of the city's heart. You hear the murmur of voices from the market below, a low hum of conversation that rises and falls like the tide. The smell of roasted chestnuts drifts up, warm and sweet, cutting through the cool air. It is a scent that speaks of comfort and survival, of the small pleasures that sustain a life. You feel the weight of the stone beneath your hands, solid and unchanging, a reminder of the permanence of the city. The walls are thick and old, built to withstand the passage of time and the force of winter storms. They hold the heat of the day and release it slowly as the sun sets. You see the texture of the mortar, rough and uneven, filled with the debris of centuries. The wood of the railing is polished, smoothed by the touch of many hands, a testament to the many who have stood here before. It is a place of observation, of quiet watching and listening. The scholar moves to the edge of the terrace, his gaze fixed on the horizon, where the sky is turning a pale, watery blue. He does not speak, but his presence is felt, a quiet energy that fills the space around him. You feel the stillness of the moment, a pause in the flow of time that allows the mind to settle. The wind dies down, and the air becomes heavy with the scent of rain and earth. You hear the distant sound of a church bell, a deep, resonant tone that rolls through the valley. It is a sound that calls the people to prayer, to reflection, to the quiet work of the day. You see the light change as the sun rises higher, the shadows retreating from the corners of the terrace. The brass of the telescope glows brighter, catching the full light of the morning. You feel the warmth of the stone under your feet, a gentle heat that spreads through your body. The city below is fully awake now, the noise of commerce and industry filling the air. But here on the terrace, there is a sense of peace that has not been broken by the rush of the world. You watch as a student carries a bundle of books up the stairs, his face pale and serious. He moves with a quiet reverence, as if the books are sacred objects that must be treated with care. You see the ink on his fingers, a dark stain that marks his dedication to his studies. The scholar turns from the railing and walks back toward the study, his steps slow and deliberate. He pauses to look at the telescope one last time, a gesture of respect for the tool that has shown him so much. You feel the weight of the moment, a sense of history being made in the quiet of a winter morning. The door to the study closes with a soft click, sealing the space from the noise of the world. You are left alone on the terrace, with the sound of the city and the sight of the rising sun. The wind picks up again, carrying the scent of rain and the sound of distant voices. You feel the cool air on your face, a reminder of the world that exists beyond the walls. The day is beginning, and the work is waiting. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the fresh, crisp air. You feel the stillness of the moment, a pause before the rush of the day begins. The sun climbs higher, casting long shadows across the terrace. You see the texture of the stone, the rough grain of the wood, the smooth brass of the telescope. It is a world of detail and precision, of light and shadow. You feel the quiet determination of the scholar, a force that drives him forward. The day is yours to observe, to witness, to understand. You feel the peace of the terrace, a sanctuary in the midst of the city. The wind whispers through the air, carrying the sounds of the world below. You listen to the rhythm of the city, the beat of the blacksmith's hammer, the clatter of the horse's hooves. It is a sound that has persisted for centuries, a rhythm that will continue long after you are gone. You feel the weight of the stone, the coolness of the air, the warmth of the sun. It is a moment of stillness, a pause in the flow of time. You close your eyes and listen to the sounds of the world. You feel the peace of the terrace, a sanctuary in the midst of the city. The wind whispers through the air, carrying the sounds of the world below. You listen to the rhythm of the city, the beat of the blacksmith's hammer, the clatter of the horse's hooves. It is a sound that has persisted for centuries, a rhythm that will continue long after you are gone. You feel the weight of the stone, the coolness of the air, the warmth of the sun. It is a moment of stillness, a pause in the flow of time. You close your eyes and listen to the sounds of the world. The sun rises higher and the shadows retreat. You feel the warmth of the day, the promise of new discoveries. The city wakes and the world turns. You stand on the terrace, a witness to the quiet beauty of the morning. The wind dies down and the air becomes still. You feel the peace of the moment, a sense of calm that settles deep within you. The day begins and the work awaits. You take a final breath and the world moves on. The silence returns, soft and deep, as the light settles over the stone. The candle flame holds steady in the small room near the canal, casting a warm, trembling circle upon the rough stone floor. Dust motes drift slowly through the single shaft of light that cuts across the heavy wooden desk. A brass armillary sphere sits quietly in the corner, its rings catching the firelight and throwing long, geometric shadows against the wall. The air carries the faint scent of dried lavender tucked between the pages of stacked books. Outside, the distant ripple of water against stone offers a soft, rhythmic sound that never truly stops. A leather-bound journal lies open, its pages filled with neat, faded ink that records the slow turning of the night. The quill pen rests dry in its inkwell, a silent witness to hours of careful calculation. This space feels suspended in time, a sanctuary where the mind can wander without the weight of the world pressing in. The silence is deep and comforting, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards settling under the weight of the old house. Sunlight from the earlier day still warms the stone walls, creating a gentle heat that invites a sense of calm reflection. Every object in the room has a purpose, from the simple compass to the complex mathematical tables stacked neatly nearby. The atmosphere is one of serene order, reflecting the disciplined mind that works here in the quiet hours. Time seems to move more slowly in this room, allowing for deep thought and careful observation of the stars above. The stillness of the room mirrors the quiet determination that characterizes the life lived within these walls. It is a place where the chaos of the outside world fades away, leaving only the clarity of reason and the soft glow of the flame. The light shifts as the fire burns lower, moving across the parchment and the brass instruments with a slow, deliberate grace. You can feel the texture of the rough stone beneath your hand and the smooth, worn wood of the chair. The heavy drapes filter the outside world, turning the noise of the city into a muffled hum that feels far away. A simple wooden chair sits near the hearth where a low fire crackles gently, adding a warmth that fills the small space. The shadows dance slowly across the walls as the flame sways in the gentle draft from the narrow window. This space serves as a sanctuary for thought and reflection, away from the noise and demands of the academic world. The textures of the rough stone and smooth wood provide a tactile sense of history and permanence that grounds the mind. It is here that many of the most profound ideas take shape in the quiet of the night, unobserved by the crowds. The stillness allows the mind to wander freely through the complexities of the natural world and the movement of the heavens. The scholar continues to refine his understanding of the stars, despite the growing tension with the authorities outside these walls. His relationship with the church becomes increasingly strained as his views on the solar system gain prominence and attention. He remains committed to the evidence he has gathered through his telescopic observations and the careful notes he keeps. The support of his patrons and the loyalty of his students sustain him through these difficult and uncertain times. His legacy endures long after his death, influencing generations of scientists who follow in his footsteps with curiosity and care. The interplay of friendship, rivalry, and family shapes the course of his remarkable life in this quiet city. His contributions to physics and astronomy remain foundational to our modern understanding of the universe and its vastness. The quiet dedication he shows in his work continues to inspire those who seek knowledge with patience and deep care. The historical record preserves the details of his relationships and the impact they had on his career and his spirit. He valued deep conversation with trusted friends more than the approval of the wider academic community or the public eye. His personality combines a sharp wit with a profound patience for the slow accumulation of knowledge over many years. He believes that the book of nature is written in the language of mathematics and geometry, clear and precise. This conviction drives him to challenge established views despite the potential risks to his reputation and his safety. He faces significant personal struggles as his findings begin to conflict with traditional religious interpretations of the cosmos. The pressure mounts as church authorities grow increasingly suspicious of his telescopic discoveries and his written words. He is a Catholic who is eventually forced by the Inquisition to deny his scientific views in a painful moment. This forced denial marks a turning point in his later years of confinement within the walls of his home. He spends the remainder of his life under house arrest while continuing his work in secret and in silence. His home becomes both a prison and a sanctuary. For his final scientific investigations into the nature of light, he finds solace in the company of his daughter, who offers him emotional support and spiritual encouragement through letters. She writes him words filled with love and hope during his time of isolation and physical decline. He cherishes these moments of family connection even as his health begins to fail and his sight grows dim. He often speaks of the stars with a sense of wonder that never fades with age or with illness. His belief in the harmony of the cosmos remains unshaken despite external pressures to conform to old teachings. He understands that truth often requires patience and the courage to endure misunderstanding from those who fear change. The scholar accepts his fate with a dignity that inspires those who know him personally and respect his work. He continues to teach and write until his eyesight fails him completely in his final days of life. His legacy endures long after his death as a testament to human curiosity and the resilience of the human spirit. The room where he spent his final years contains simple wooden furniture and a large window facing the garden. Soft light filters through the heavy curtains to illuminate the scattered papers on his writing desk and the floor. A single oil lamp casts a warm glow over the books that line the worn shelves of the small study. The air smells faintly of old parchment and dried herbs that have been kept in the corners of the room. You stand in the doorway for a moment, watching the light play across the brass telescope that rests on the table. Through the open door, a figure moves quietly in the adjacent room. A brief glimpse of a man in dark robes. The figure pauses for a second, then turns away, leaving the study to the silence and the flickering flame. No words are spoken, and no hands reach out. as the moment passes like a shadow across the floor. The figure disappears into the darkness of the hallway, leaving the room once again to the quiet of the night. The candle flame burns lower now, casting a softer light that seems to embrace the objects on the desk. The brass telescope gleams faintly in the dim light, its lenses waiting for the next clear night of observation. The parchment on the desk holds the marks of a mind that has seen the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn. The silence returns, deeper and more complete than before, wrapping the room in a blanket of peace and stillness. The fire in the hearth settles into a low glow, sending up a final wisp of smoke that vanishes into the air. The world outside continues its slow turning, but here in this small space, time seems to have stopped completely. The scent of beeswax and old paper fills the air, a comfort that remains after the figure has gone. The shadows lengthen across the floorboards, stretching toward the door where the figure once stood. The room feels empty yet full, filled with the presence of thoughts that have been written and the stars that have been seen. The light from the candle finally flickers and dies, leaving the room in the soft darkness of the night. The only sound is the gentle lapping of the water against the stone outside, a rhythm that never changes. The night settles over Padua, wrapping the city and the study in a quiet that invites sleep and rest. The last of the light fades from the brass sphere, leaving it to wait for the dawn. The room is still, the air is cool, and the mind is ready to rest in the silence of the night. The city of Padua holds its breath in the deep hours of January, when the cold settles into the stone walls and the world below sleeps soundly. A single candle burns on the wooden desk, its flame steady and small against the vast darkness outside the narrow window. The air inside the study is still, heavy with the scent of dried lavender, hanging from the rafters and the faint, dry smell of old parchment stacked in neat piles. Shadows stretch long across the floorboards, created by the flickering light that dances with every soft breath of the wind. Outside, the silence is complete, broken only by the distant, rhythmic sound of a canal, boat gliding through the black water, its oars making a soft splash that fades quickly into the night. The heavy linen curtains are drawn tight, yet the cool night air finds a way to drift in, mixing with the warmth of the dying fire in the stone hearth. Dust motes float slowly in the beam of light, suspended in the quiet atmosphere like tiny stars trapped within the room. A small crucifix hangs on the wall above the simple bed, its metal surface catching the faint glow of the flame. The floor is covered with worn rush, mats that muffle any sound of movement, creating a soft, hushed space where time seems to slow down. A brass candlestick sits on the table, next to a stack of unfinished manuscripts, the metal cool to the touch and polished smooth by years of use. The pages of the books are thick and textured, bearing the faint marks of a quill pen that has written of falling bodies and the movements of the heavens. The light from the window illuminates the dust that settles on the pages, revealing the intricate diagrams of the moon's surface drawn with careful, deliberate lines. In the corner of the room, a small globe rests on a stand, its surface marked with the names of stars that have guided travelers for centuries. The wooden chair creaks softly as a figure shifts their weight to reach for a book, the sound barely audible in the deep silence of the night. The figure is an old man, his face lined with the marks of many years spent looking upward at the sky. He sits for hours in the dim light, his hands resting gently on the arms of the chair as he listens to the wind. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, sending up a shower of sparks that vanish into the dark chimney. The air smells faintly of old parchment and dried ink, a scent that has filled this room for decades. Outside the narrow window, the night air is cool and still, carrying the distant sound of a church bell that tolls the hour with a low, resonant tone. The figure does not move for a long time, his gaze fixed on the open window, above where the stars shine with a cold, clear light. The telescope stands on the terrace outside, its brass tube gleaming in the moonlight, pointing toward the dark expanse of the sky. The lenses catch the faint light of the stars, magnifying their glow and revealing details that the naked eye cannot see. The figure rises slowly, his movements deliberate and careful, and walks to the window to look out at the night. The glass is cold under his fingertips as he touches the frame, feeling the chill of the winter air seeping through the cracks. He leans forward, his eyes scanning the heavens, searching for the faintest movement of a planet or the shadow of a moon. The silence of the room feels heavy yet peaceful, filled with the weight of unspoken thoughts and the quiet dignity of a life spent in inquiry. The figure turns back to the desk, his eyes tired but sharp, and picks up a piece of charcoal to sketch what he has seen. The charcoal scratches softly against the paper, leaving dark lines that capture the shape of the moon's craters and the phases of the planets. The light from the candle flickers as a draft moves through the room, casting shifting shadows across the walls and the ceiling. The figure pauses for a moment, his hand hovering over the paper, before continuing to draw with a steady, sure hand. The sketches are detailed and precise, showing the rugged surface of the moon and the rings of Saturn with a clarity that defies the darkness. The figure sets the charcoal down and picks up a quill pen, dipping it into the inkwell to write the observations in a small notebook. The ink flows smoothly onto the page, the words forming slowly as the figure dictates the findings of the night. The handwriting is neat and legible, the letters formed with care and attention to detail. The figure pauses again, his head bowed in thought, as he listens to the distant sound of the wind rustling the leaves in the garden outside. The leaves whisper softly against each other, a gentle, soothing sound that fills the room with a sense of calm. The figure closes the notebook and sets it aside, his work for the night nearly done. He stands up and stretches his arms, his bones creaking softly in the silence of the room. The fire has burned low now, the embers glowing red in the dark hearth, casting a faint, warm light across the floor. The figure walks to the window and looks out one last time at the stars, his eyes reflecting the cold, clear light of the sky. The night is deep and still, the city of Padua sleeping under a blanket of stars that have watched over the world for millennia. The figure turns away from the window and walks slowly to the door, his footsteps muffled by the rush mats on the floor. He pauses for a moment in the doorway, looking back at the desk and the telescope, the candle and the books. The room is a sanctuary of the mind, separate from the chaos of the world outside, a place where great ideas are born and nurtured in the quiet hours of the night. The figure steps out into the hallway, the door closing softly behind him, leaving the room empty and still. The candle burns on the desk, its flame flickering gently in the draught, casting long shadows across the walls. The telescope stands on the terrace, its brass tube gleaming in the moonlight, pointing toward the dark expanse of the sky. The stars continue their slow, silent dance across the heavens, indifferent to the work of the man who has watched them for so long. The city of Padua sleeps on, unaware of the discoveries made in the quiet study while the world below rests in the deep, dark hours of the night. The air inside the room is still, heavy with the scent of old parchment and dried lavender, and the silence is absolute. The fire has died down to a few glowing embers, and the candle burns low, its flame barely strong enough to light the pages of the open book. The figure is gone, but the work remains. The sketches and the notes waiting for the morning light to reveal their secrets. The night is deep and quiet, the stars shining with a cold, clear light that seems to have no end. The world is still, and the only movement comes from the slow drift of the shadows across the floor. The silence of the room feels heavy yet peaceful, filled with the weight of unspoken thoughts and the quiet dignity of a life spent in inquiry. The figure has left the room, but the spirit of the night remains, a gentle force that guides the mind toward the stars and the truths they hold. The candle burns on, its flame steady and small, a beacon in the darkness that marks the passage of time. The night is deep and still, the city of Padua sleeping under a blanket of stars that have watched over the world for millennia. The silence is absolute, and the only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping city. a sound that fades into the distance as the night deepens. The candle flickers one last time before the flame dies out, leaving the room in total darkness. The stars continue their slow, silent dance across the heavens, indifferent to the work of the man who has watched them for so long. The night is deep and quiet. The city of Padua sleeping under a blanket of stars that have watched over the world for millennia. The silence is absolute, and the only sound is the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping city, a sound that fades into the distance as the night deepens. The candle flickers one last time before the flame dies out, leaving the room in total darkness. The stars continue their. The cold air moves through the old stone walls of the Padua Palazzo, finding every crack in the masonry, to settle into the rooms below. It is well past midnight now, and the city sleeps with a heavy, deep breath that seems to pause between heartbeats. You stand in the doorway of the study where the single candle burns low, its flame barely flickering against the draft that slips under the heavy oak door. The wax has pooled on the desk, hardening into a small, white island around the wick. Dust motes float in the narrow beam of light, drifting slowly like tiny stars caught in a terrestrial sky. The scent of beeswax mixes with the dry smell of old parchment and the faint, ghostly aroma of dried lavender tucked between the spines of leather-bound books. Outside the tall window, the moon casts a pale, silver glow over the quiet courtyard where shadows stretch long and thin across the cobblestones. A single bell tolls from a distant church, its sound muffled by the thick walls and the stillness of the night, vibrating softly in the air before fading into silence. The building itself seems to breathe, the timber frames expanding and contracting with the drop in temperature, creating a soft, rhythmic creaking that echoes through the empty halls. You can hear the water lapping gently against the foundations of the canal nearby, a soft, wet sound that repeats without variation. The brass armillary sphere on the desk catches the faint light, its geometric rings casting long, shifting shadows across the worn floorboards. A quill pen rests in the inkwell, its tip dry and still, waiting for a hand that will not return until the sun rises. The fire in the hearth has burned down to a bed of red embers, glowing with a steady, quiet heat that offers no warmth to the cold stone walls. In the corner of the room, a figure sits in the shadows, a man in a dark robe who has been watching the stars through a brass telescope for hours. He does not speak, and he does not move. His presence as still as the instruments that surround him. The silence is deep and unbroken, a vast ocean of quiet that fills every corner of the space. Time seems to slow down here, stretching the minutes into hours, allowing the mind to wander freely through the complexities of the natural world. The texture of the rough stone walls contrasts with the smooth wood of the desk, creating a tactile sense of history and permanence. Every object in the room has a purpose, from the simple compass to the complex mathematical tables stacked neatly nearby. The atmosphere is one of serene order, reflecting the disciplined mind of the scholar who works there. The chaos of the outside world fades away, leaving only the clarity of reason and the quiet determination to understand the heavens. The candlelight flickers softly, illuminating the pages of a journal filled with neat, handwritten calculations in faded ink. The ink has dried, and the pages are still, waiting for the next observation, the next discovery. The sound of a distant gondola gliding through the canal provides a soft, rhythmic backdrop, a reminder of the city that sleeps just beyond the stone walls. The air is cool and crisp, filling the lungs with a sense of calm and reflection. The silence is not empty, but full of potential, a sanctuary where great ideas are born and nurtured in peace. The man in the corner finally rises, his movements slow and deliberate, and he walks to the window to look out at the night sky. He sees the stars, bright and clear, untouched by the clouds or the fog that often shrouds the city. He sees the moon, a pale disk hanging in the darkness, and he feels a deep sense of wonder and awe. The telescope stands on the terrace, its brass body gleaming in the starlight, ready to reveal the secrets of the universe. The cold air bites at his face, but he does not feel the chill, for his mind is focused on the celestial bodies that dance in the darkness above. He adjusts the telescope, his hands steady and sure, and he peers through the lens to see the craters on the moon, the moons of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn. The world outside the window is quiet, but the world inside the telescope is full of motion and life. The man steps back from the telescope, his heart beating slowly, and he turns to face the room once more. The candle has burned down to a small nub, and the flame sputters, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The silence returns, deeper than before, and the man sits back down in his chair, his eyes closed, listening to the sounds of the night. The building settles, the wood groans, and the water laps against the stones, all in a rhythm that has played out for centuries. The man knows that he is part of this rhythm, a small but significant note in the great symphony of the universe. He knows that his work will outlive him, that his discoveries will change the way people see the world. He knows that the silence of the night is a gift, a time for reflection and for the pursuit of truth. The candle flame dies, and the room is plunged into darkness, save for the pale light of the moon that filters through the window. The man sits in the dark, his mind still awake, his thoughts still racing through the stars and the planets. The silence is absolute, a blanket that covers the world and allows the mind to soar. The night is long, but the man is patient, for he knows that the sun will rise again and with it, new questions to answer. The building breathes, the water flows, and the stars shine on, indifferent to the struggles of men. The man closes his eyes, and for a moment, he is one with the silence, one with the night, one with the universe. The quiet settles deeper into the bones of the house, wrapping the rooms in a soft, heavy cloak of stillness. The embers in the hearth glow with a faint, red light, a dying fire that holds the last warmth of the day. The air grows colder, and the frost begins to form on the inside of the window panes, creating intricate patterns of ice that mirror the constellations above. The silence is a living thing, moving through the corridors, filling the spaces between the stones, and settling into the hearts of those who dwell within. It is a silence that speaks of the past, of the generations that have walked these halls, and of the future that awaits beyond the horizon. The man in the corner is gone now, his chair empty, his robe draped over the back like a ghost. The room is empty, save for the instruments and the books, the tools of a life dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. The candle wax has hardened, the ink has dried, and the quill lies still, waiting for the next hand to pick it up. The night continues, deep and unbroken, a vast expanse of darkness that holds the secrets of the universe. The water laps against the stones, the wood creaks in the cold, and the stars shine on, eternal and unchanging. The silence is a comfort, a reminder that the world is still, that the chaos of the day has passed, and that the night is a time for rest and for reflection. The building breathes, the air grows still, and the night settles into a deep, peaceful sleep. The silence is the only sound, the only movement, the only truth in a world that is constantly changing. The night is long, but the silence is eternal, a constant companion to those who seek the truth in the darkness. The fire dies out, the candle goes out, and the room is filled with the soft, silver light of the moon. The silence is a blanket, a shield, a sanctuary that protects the mind from the noise of the world. The night is a time for dreaming, for imagining, for seeing the stars and the planets as they truly are. The silence is a gift, a present from the universe to those who are willing to listen. The night is deep, the silence is profound, and the world is at peace. The silence settles, the night deepens, and the building rests in the quiet of the moonlit hour. The cold settles deep into the stone of the rooftop terrace as the night stretches its final, long breath. A single oil lamp burns low on the wooden table, casting a trembling golden pool across the scattered sheets of parchment. The brass telescope rests on its velvet cushion, its metal cool to the touch and gleaming faintly in the dim light. Dust motes drift slowly through the beam, suspended in the stillness of the air. The scent of dried ink and old paper fills the small study, mixing with the chill that seeps through the open shutters. Outside, the world remains wrapped in a heavy, silent blanket of deep indigo. The moon has long since dipped below the horizon, leaving only the faint, silver wash of the Milky Way above. A figure moves quietly in the shadows of the room, shifting a stack of charts with careful, deliberate hands. The wooden chair creaks softly as he leans forward to adjust the lens of the instrument. His movements are slow, practiced, and utterly without haste. He touches the edge of the brass tube, feeling the smooth, polished surface under his fingertips. The silence is absolute, broken only by the soft rustle of paper turning in the distant, rhythmic lap of water against the canal walls. The air grows slightly sharper as the temperature drops further, a familiar winter bite in January. The flame of the lamp flickers once, casting long, dancing shadows against the rough plaster walls. A small globe sits in the corner, its painted stars waiting for the light to return. The figure steps back, his silhouette blending into the darkness for a moment before he turns toward the window. He gazes out at the sleeping city, where the narrow streets are empty and the canals reflect the starlight like dark mirrors. The cold wind whispers through the gaps in the stone railing, carrying the faint, damp smell of river water. No birds call yet, and no carts roll over the cobblestones. The world holds its breath in this suspended moment between the deep night and the coming day. The brass of the telescope catches a final, faint glint of starlight before the sky begins its slow, imperceptible shift. The candle burns lower, the wax pooling around the wick in a small, white mound. The figure sits again, his hands resting on the desk, watching the shadows lengthen and then begin to shorten. Time moves with a heavy, deliberate grace in this quiet sanctuary. The ink in the well has begun to dry, leaving a faint crust on the tip of the quill. The room feels like a vessel floating in a vast, dark ocean, isolated from the rush of the world outside. The figure does not speak, for there is nothing to say. In the face of such quiet observation, the only sound is the soft, dry whisper of paper as a hand turns another page. The cold seeps into the rush mats on the floor, a reminder of the winter season. A single bird begins to stir in the eaves of the building, its feathers rustling softly against the thatch. The sound is small, almost imperceptible, yet it breaks the perfect stillness of the morning. The figure looks up, his eyes following the faint movement in the darkness. The sky above the city begins to lighten, a pale gray wash spreading slowly across the eastern horizon. The stars fade one by one, their silver light swallowed by the growing dawn. The lamp flame flickers again, struggling against the increasing brightness of the sky. The cold air seems to lose its bite, softening as the first hint of warmth approaches. The figure stands and walks to the window, placing a hand on the cool stone sill. The city below is just beginning to wake, a faint hum of activity rising from the streets. A baker opens his shutters, the sound of wood scraping on wood echoing softly in the distance. The smell of baking bread begins to drift up from the street, mixing with the scent of the river. The figure watches as the light grows stronger, turning the gray sky to a soft, pale blue. The brass telescope sits silent on the table, its purpose fulfilled for the night. The sketches of the moon and the stars lie scattered, waiting for the day's work to begin. The figure turns away from the window, moving back toward the desk with a slow, steady step. The candle is finally extinguished, leaving only the natural light of the morning to fill the room. The shadows retreat into the corners, their shapes softening and losing their sharp edges. The air warms slightly as the sun climbs higher, touching the stone walls with a gentle, golden glow. The figure picks up the quill, its tip now wet with fresh ink, ready to record the new observations. The day has begun quiet and still, with the promise of new discoveries waiting in the light. The sound of a footstep echoes on the wooden floor as the figure moves to the door. The city stirs fully now, the sounds of life returning with a gentle, rhythmic cadence. The cold of the night fades completely, replaced by the soft warmth of the morning sun. The figure pauses in the doorway, looking back at the room one last time before stepping out. The telescope remains on the table, a silent witness to the passing of the hours. The light fills the space, illuminating the dust motes as they dance in the new day. The night is gone, and the world is ready for the work of the morning. The soft light settles over the terrace, bringing a sense of calm and quiet order to the scene. The figure disappears down the stairs, leaving the room to the silence and the light. The day begins slowly, with the gentle rhythm of a city waking from its sleep. The sun rises higher, casting long, warm shadows across the floorboards. The air is fresh and clear, filled with the promise of a new beginning. The night's work is done, and the day's work awaits with quiet anticipation. The light settles softly on the brass and the parchment, bringing a final sense of peace to the room. The dawn has arrived, and the world is ready to turn once more. The light fills the space, bringing a sense of calm and quiet order to the scene. The figure disappears down the stairs, leaving the room to the silence and the light. The day begins slowly, with the gentle rhythm of a city waking from its sleep. The sun rises higher, casting long, warm shadows across the floorboards. The air is fresh and clear, filled with the promise of a new beginning. The night's work is done, and the day's work awaits with quiet anticipation. The light settles softly on the brass and the parchment, bringing a final sense of peace to the room. The dawn has arrived, and the world is ready to turn once more. The soft light settles over the terrace, bringing a sense of calm and quiet order to the scene. The figure disappears down the stairs. The afternoon light begins to fade from the heavy stone walls of the study, leaving the room in a soft, gray twilight. Dust motes that danced in the golden shafts now hang suspended in the cooling air, waiting for the first true star to appear. The scent of dried lavender from the bookshelves grows faint as the temperature drops, replaced by the dry smell of old paper and the sharp tang of ink. Outside the tall window, the distant sound of a gondola gliding through the canal slows to a rhythmic, watery hush that echoes against the plaster. A brass armillary sphere sits on the wooden desk, its rings catching the last reflection of the sun before surrendering to the shadows. You can feel the coolness rising from the floorboards, a gentle chill that settles into the bones and invites a deep, still rest. The heavy drapes are drawn back only a fraction, allowing a narrow strip of the evening sky to be seen above the rooftops of Padua. The single candle on the desk is lit now, its flame steady and small, casting long, geometric shapes across the worn wood. The wax smells of beeswax and smoke, a comforting scent that clings to the air with a quiet permanence. A leather-bound journal lies open, its pages filled with neat, handwritten calculations in faded ink that seems to breathe in the dim light. The quill pen rests in the inkwell, its tip dry and still after hours of careful, deliberate work. You stand near the window and watch the sky turn from a deep blue to a velvet black, the first stars appearing like tiny pinpricks in the vast canvas above. The silence in the room is deep and unbroken, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards settling in the cool night air. Time moves slowly here, measured not by the ticking of a clock, but by the slow drift of the shadows and the burning of the candle. In the corner of the room, a figure moves quietly, a background presence in the dim glow of the flame. He adjusts the brass telescope that sits on the velvet cushion, his hands moving with a practiced grace that speaks of years of observation. The lenses catch the candlelight, glinting with a soft, metallic shine that seems to hold the light of the stars within them. He does not speak, but the rustle of his clothes and the soft click of the instrument are enough to fill the space with a sense of purpose. The stack of hand-drawn sketches beside him shows the phases of Venus and the craters of the moon, drawn with a steady hand and a keen eye. Each line is deliberate, capturing the essence of the celestial bodies with a precision that feels almost like a prayer. The room feels suspended in time, a pocket of calm in a world that is rapidly changing, where the chaos of the outside fades away. The warmth of the small fire in the hearth provides a gentle contrast to the cool night air drifting through the cracks in the window frame. It is a place where the boundaries between art and science dissolve into a unified pursuit of understanding, where the observer feels the presence of the past in every object. The stillness of the room invites a deep and meditative state of mind, perfect for the careful work of analysis that has taken place here for so long. The candle flame dances without flickering, a steady beacon in the darkness of the night, promising to extend the day into the quiet hours. The world outside continues its slow rotation, indifferent to the quiet efforts taking place within the small study. Yet the peace inside is absolute. The objects within the room speak of a life dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, from the simple compass to the complex mathematical tables stacked neatly nearby. As the night deepens, the light from the candle becomes the only source of illumination, painting the room in shades of gold and shadow. The brass telescope rests quietly on its cushion, its lenses reflecting the faint glow of the flame, waiting for the next observation of the heavens. The texture of the paper is rough beneath the fingertips, absorbing the ink with a soft whisper that seems to echo in the silence. Dust motes dance slowly in the beam of light, moving in the still air of the room like tiny, suspended stars. The silence is deep and comforting, a rare gift in a life dedicated to the relentless pursuit of truth, where the mind can wander freely without interruption. The scholar has spent many hours here, calculating the movements of the heavens, and now the room holds the weight of those thoughts in its quiet corners. The wooden chair creaks softly as he shifts his weight, a small sound that blends into the background of the night. The pages of the journal turn with a dry whisper, revealing diagrams of falling bodies and inclined planes that map the laws of the physical world. The room feels like a sanctuary of the mind, separate from the chaos of the world outside, where the only rhythm is the burning of the candle and the ticking of the clock. The air is still, and the only movement comes from the slow drift of the shadows across the floorboards. The small globe in the corner sits in the darkness, its surface marked with the names of stars that are now visible through the window. The scholar moves to the window and looks out at the night sky, his silhouette framed by the faint light of the stars. He sees the same sky that has been seen for centuries, yet he sees it with new eyes, filled with the promise of discovery. The peace of the room is absolute, a rare gift that allows the mind to rest and the heart to settle. The candle burns down slowly, its flame shrinking as the wax pool grows wider, the light becoming softer and more intimate. The scent of beeswax and old parchment fills the room, a comforting aroma that lingers in the air long after the flame has gone. The brass telescope sits in the shadows, its lenses dark and still, waiting for the morning light to return. The sketches on the desk are covered by a soft cloth, protecting the delicate lines and calculations from the dust of the night. The silence of the room is heavy with the weight of unspoken thoughts. Yet it is a silence that brings a profound sense of calm. The distant sound of the canal boat fades away, leaving only the sound of the wind rustling through the trees outside the window. The room is a testament to the power of solitude and the beauty of intellectual endeavor, where the mind can explore the universe in